Welcome, friends, to a very, very hot Tanked Up. I think it's episode 378. I'm Ben, here with Aadil.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey, returning Aadil, hooray! Have you been sweltering up in the northeast like I have down here in Bristol?
I think it's slightly better
Okay,
here, but not by a lot.
okay, fair.
Like low 20s.
Ooh, no, I think it's been nearly 30
Is that right, or
today.
am I just making that up?
I mean, you could be right. I don't know. Yeah,
It's currently
29.
20.
Oh, okay. Well, it's probably a bit hotter today.
Yeah.
But it's put me right in the mood for some nice cold beers.
Oh, no, I've been wrong. It's been awful. Tomorrow's supposed to be 28. Jesus, fuck.
Yes. Similar here. So with that being said, I'm going to crack open a beer because I'm parched and hot and a bit of a sweaty mess. Two beers this evening for your return.
Nice.
Two beers. Both of my beers come from the same main brewer, Left-Handed Giant. They are both collaboration beers, however. The first one tonight is a collaboration with Pressure Drop. It's called No Sleep, and it's a New Zealand Pils. It's 5%. There is a bit of flavour text. Brewed in collaboration with our good friends at Pressure Drop to celebrate our 8th birthday. A blend of classic lager malts provide a clean canvas for the refined character of Nelson Pacific Jade. Is it Y-E-T? And one that I can't read, Taheka. I guess. Layers of peach and lime with hints of cracked pepper and bergamot sit atop a vibrant piquette-like smasher. Cool. So that's, yeah. A little bit of flavour text for it. As I said, it is 5%. I'm going to get it cracked and I'm just going to start drinking it.
Nice.
Whilst you, Adel, launch into what you're drinking.
So, I was at the station house the other day. One of the local craft pubs. Actually, the one that got second place in the Camera Pub of the Year
Oh, wow. Nice.
competition. And I don't know if you're familiar with Abbeydale Brewery in Sheffield. Well, they've started this very interesting thing, which is sparkling hop water.
Okay.
This is their first prototype. It's prototype Nelson Sauvin. It's 0% alcohol by volume because it's not alcohol-free beer. It's water, hop-infused water. Water-infused hops. No, what? Hop-infused water. So let me read the flavor text. It is, plunge yourself into the hop water experience. This is not beer. This is the finest Yorkshire water infused with our favorite hops, lightly carbonated to create a refreshing, relaxing soft drink or delicious mixer. This version features Nelson Sauvin hops, renowned for their clean, crisp, grape-like flavors, given space to shine in their purest form. No booze, no artificial flavoring, no carbs, no caffeine, sugar, just spritzy, zesty, mindful drinking. We'd love your feedback on this exciting new project, and then, blah.
Sure.
So it's 450 mils, 0% ABV, and a really intriguing entry into the hopped beverage space.
Yeah, I think a few people have done some hopped water. Something that cropped up a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months ago. Interesting. Ooh. Again, interesting that in their flavour text they say, it could be used as a bit of a mixer as well. I'd never really thought about it in that kind of way. But almost the same as like Left-Handed Giant produced and a few other kind of breweries, that kind of the blender, the thing that you can mix with certain beers to change up the way that it kind of tastes. Interesting. And a nice, I suppose, at least for Abbeydale, almost a bit of diversification. Not a huge amount, but another product to offer, especially as more people seem to be going down the kind of alcohol-free route. But yeah, where this lies in what's the whatever White Claw is? What is that as a drink?
Oh, seltzer.
So yes, hard seltzers and things like that. Interesting. We're getting a bit more diversification again.
Yeah, it's really wild. We'll see how it goes.
Good.
But first, tell me about your beer.
Pour's very clean, very clear. A little bit of haze to it. Had a nice big frothy head on, which has dissipated quite nicely. I'm a little bit bunged up, so I'm not going to be able to give very much on the nose because I've got nothing coming through. I can't get that. That's probably going to taste change the taste very slightly as well. But when I'm sipping, I'm getting a little bit of the nose coming through. And it's nice. It's a lovely, very light beer. It's very clean. It's very refreshing. It's not a big flavour though. I think the flavour text said something about peach. Definitely getting a little bit of that, but again, really, really light. And it's then got this edges towards that peppery finish. If I hadn't have read that this was a Pils, I'd have said this might have been a bit of a weaker saison, something like that. Just giving a little bit more than you get in kind of like a standard Pils, while still giving you that kind of very clean, very refreshing hit of a lager. But it's got those sort of spices to it. I'm not getting a huge amount of the bergamot, but that might come through as I drink more and my palate kind of adjusts. But at the moment, it's very, very soft stone fruits, leading into a peppery finish to it. But it's very, very, whilst it is refreshing, it's very dry towards the end. So it starts off nice and wet, but it kicks in with that dryness as that peppery kind of flavour seeps in, and it kind of wants you to go back very, very quickly because it dries you out very, very quickly. I think I'll return to it. I'll see as my nose adjusts and I get a little bit more of the flavour through. So we'll jump back to the Abbeydale.
Yeah. So I mean, if you saw on the pour, it's like slightly yellowy. It's like an off-white-ish. Like it's not just a clear water. There's like the hops have obviously given it a slightly yellowish tinge. Maybe just it's more that it's slightly translucent, not fully transparent.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of an orange lighting. But I think it's a bit of a yellow tinge. It smells real crisp. It has a bit of a nose. And you do smell sort of like bit of green grape.
Okay.
And something else. There's a bit of a sweetness on top. Yeah, so green grape because it's a bit sweet smelling. Ooh. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of that green grape. It's really crisp. It's really refreshing. That's so interesting. It reminds me a bit of when I put a bit of lemon and lime in like a soda stream.
Okay.
Just because of that crisp feeling, although I'm not getting the citrus really that much. But this is really refreshing. This is what I should have had like 3 hours ago when it was fucking sweltering. Yeah, this is like enough taste to not just be sparkling water. And it is its own thing, unique thing, for lack of better descriptors. I hope they. There we go. Sorry, let's read the ingredients: water, lemon juice, hops, calcium sulfate, which is gypsum, and citric acid. So that explains why it's giving me a bit of a lemony, like reminding me of like when I lemon juice and lime juice up a soda stream. It's literally got the same things in it. The citric acid is also probably giving it that crisp zestiness.
I can't remember what hops were in that batch.
Nelson Sauvin.
Right. Just Nelson.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yep. It's really good. It's gluten-free, vegan, sugar-free, and zero carbs. Yeah, it's water. I really like this. This is really refreshing. If this type of thing was around more regularly, I would 1,000% reach for it versus like a questionable alcohol-free beer.
Sure.
Like I've had now there are a few alcohol-free beers which I'm like, I don't mind this. I want something slightly beery tasting, but often they sort of fail at the beery tasting, and some of the better ones are just doing their own thing. There are, like, not get me wrong, like this year because of my mild health scare, I actually put more effort into finding good alcohol-free beers, and I found them better than we did in January. But this is like, it's not faking a thing, right? So it's just an interesting new thing that I can take on its own grounds, and because it's just trying to be flavored water, which is a thing that I generally enjoy, hence owning a soda stream.
Yeah.
This is great. I mean, hopefully it's not the same price as a beer.
I was going to ask, how much was it?
Can't remember.
Okay.
Because I bought it a couple pints in and like put it on the tab. I'll walk home with it in my back pocket.
Sure.
Actually, I wonder if I can figure this out. But it's real refreshing.
Good.
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 I think, given that it's a prototype thing, it's worth like seeking out.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know the process of it. With a lot of alcohol-free. I don't know with beer necessarily, and I imagine it's the same as it is with spirits. You have to take the alcohol out of the beer. You have to take the alcohol out during the process. So there's like an additional process. Whereas this is, it's got an infusion of hops.
It has no brewing in it, right?
Yeah.
It's just infused
But what
water.
does that mean? Have they just dropped some hops in some water, soaked it for a bit, and then
So hophideout.co.uk is currently selling a tin of this for $1.90.
Okay. It's about £2.
So
yeah, potentially. Yeah.
I mean, which is like soft drink, right?
Sure, but yeah, a little bit more than a soft drink, but still nowhere near the price of a beer.
Register to view prices. Screw you.
Nice, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here at Calendar Drinks Company, it's $1.60. So yeah, between looks like $1.60 and $1.90. There's a couple places that have it for $1.95. So
cool.
It's just depending on their markup, I guess. But like that means I'm guessing it's like $1.30 maybe if it's a low margin cost.
Nice, good.
Oh,
interesting.
You could easily pound this back because it's just water.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is there's enough flavor that I kind of want to nurse it. Like a big gulp doesn't change the way it's hitting my palate.
Yeah.
So actually, unless I really want them bubbles. Also, I will say it's lightly bubbles. It's not boisterously effervescent like the way I make my soda stream. It's like pretty calm, which means you can just sip it and treat it. So like it's by that I mean like as a soft drink, it's not like a can of Coke or a can of Sprite. It's like half that, if not less.
Yes.
So it's not going to be hitting you in the face with bubbles.
Cool. Nice. Good.
Which I think is good because it lets your it gives space for your palate to appreciate the taste. Because again, it's not like in your face.
It's not a fizzy drink.
Yeah, it's fizz adjacent.
Yeah. Nice. I will say, just to return to the left-handed giant and pressure drop beer, a couple of bigger swigs in, I am getting that bergamot through. It blends very nicely with that kind of initial peachy sort of flavour. They match up very, very well. And then, of course, it leads into that pepperiness quite nicely. And I think perhaps it was, my first couple of sips, it was there, but the peach and the pepper were kind of quite stark against each other, but actually you can see how it seeps in through that sort of more bergamot flavour that comes in this sort of middle ground. The rest of the beer hasn't changed much. It's just that flavour has started to push through. And I will show you the can because I absolutely love it. More so because it almost looks, you might not quite get it on this, but it's a cool kind of design on the can. For these collaboration beers, they've stuck them, the logos of the two breweries kind of in the center, whereas Left-Handed Giant's new design puts everything at the bottom, the Left-Handed Giant logo and the information. But it isn't, but it almost, and on the shelf, that central bit with the logos in looked very, very shiny. It looked like it was almost a bit of a translucent kind of element to it, giving a little bit of silver from the can underneath. I don't know whether it is, but it's a nice little kind of just change to make the things on there pop. And as soon as I saw, looking across the shelf, I saw Left-Handed Giant and Pressure Drop, and I instantly picked the beer up to look at what it was. So, a little bit of can art and the prestige of the brewers doing a lot with my purchases earlier today. So, we're going to start off with these beers. We're going to come to some more drinks a little bit later. You're going to get a 2-drink episode today, which might fill in maybe for a potential lack of games or playing and things. But I wanted to check in with you first. I think you haven't been on for a few weeks. You've been off on your travels and away. Have you got up to much? Did you get some time to sort of play games with the family, or whilst you were traveling, or anything like that?
No, it was a lot of outdoor time and then time with Wii ones.
Mm-hmm.
So there was
not Nintendo Wii ones.
Out of a cardboard box for a 3-year-old.
Nice.
There was a tent in the living room using blankets and chairs.
All the classics.
Yeah. I think there was a thing I wanted to say. Now I've totally lost track of what it was.
Oh no.
I mean, to be honest, it's. I'm actually looking forward to, after the next couple of weeks, having some semblance of hopefully stability, employment, and time-wise to bring. I'm ready to come back into games is the big thing. I've been missing playing games and that type of decompression. This year's been kind of balls to the wall, for various reasons, and my ADHD brain can decomp really well with something that's active. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I've really noticed the lack of that type of like decompression and active relaxation.
Okay.
So I think my like to the point where I've even like I've been like pining for the days of streaming once a week, where it was like forced to do it.
Yeah. You mentioned it on the last time you were on. Sort of you'd started to think about that process a little bit more again. Like.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a minute, but long overdue.
I think you'll fall back into it quite. If you have the time to, of course, fall back into it sort of quite quickly. And I think you got to a point, especially with the weekly streams, with the first looks that you were kind of doing, where actually I think sort of like the edits weren't too big of it. It wasn't a big edit to do. You weren't sort of cutting lots of bits together, were you?
No,
a lot of the time it was the entire sort of stream that you were putting up just as a video format on YouTube. So it's more the kind of, I suppose, headspace to be like, and I found this over the past few weeks with the podcast, which is why the podcast itself didn't come out until like over a 4-day period, basically, for the last 4 episodes, because I just haven't had the time, but also haven't had the compunction to be like, cool, I'm sat at my computer, I'm throwing all of my brain power into all of the work that I'm doing, all of the managerial stuff that I'm doing with 3, potentially nearly 4 employees now, because we've jumped up again with another person, that it's taking so much that actually a very simple audio edit was just a little step too far.
Right.
And so I don't know what shifted in my brain to be like, this is a very different task. You can do a lot of this, as I used to do, in between a lot of my other tasks. So I'll be like, cool, I will type out an email. Perfect. I will load Lucy's audio into Audacity alongside mine. Great. I'll go back and type up another email. Cool. Let's come back. Let's do some light kind of noise edits and things like that on the tracks. Great. Now I'll go back and do some work. Cool. And actually not trying to bash it out in a 30-minute segment, but actually doing it over a day and doing small parts to it, almost as breaks from the work that I was kind of doing, just seems to fit a lot better for my brain space at the moment, which is very different to what it was 6 months ago. So it's interesting how adaptable humans are, I suppose, to things that actually you want to do and things that you want to kind of get out, that you just, as Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. So yes, good. Have you got anything kind of on the cards, or is there any games that are kind of have just come out or are coming out that you're thinking about that you might kind of want to delve into, or is it more of a get the next few weeks out of the way and then sort of be able to put an hour aside and think, right, what am I going to look at? What am I going to actually do?
Um, I think so. I'm a bit overdue for. We got a code for that cooking game. Dang it! What was it called?
Oh, yes, we
Um,
did. Vember?
Let me bring up
Venba. I think it's called
Venba.
Venba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Venba, I mean, it's hard. Like, it's a short narrative cooking game where he plays an Indian mom who immigrates to Canada with a
Mm.
family in '80s. Players will cook various dishes and restore lost recipes. Branching conversations explore this story about family love, loss, and more. I mean, first of all, art style looks great. It's by
Hmm.
Visai Games, which is I think their first, yeah, it's their first and only thing, but they're Toronto based. I mean, obviously, I have more than just like I have a bit of a historical vested interest slash like they might not be the same religious background, but like and like my parents came to Canada by way of East Africa from East Africa
Mm.
to the UK to Canada, but the rest is going to be real similar, right?
Hmm.
And so I was hoping to play a bit of it on, like on the plane or whatever, but I was just too exhausted on those
Sure.
flights. So that's like in this next week or so. I'm hoping to put some time into it, but I've got an upcoming job interview that's sort of
Yes.
taking up a bit more of my mental headspace. And hopefully it will be the last one. um, but yeah, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Fair. Fair.
Um,
Whilst we have a pause,
yeah.
we have someone in the chat.
Oh,
Hello, Ghost
hello.
Floof.
Yeah.
What is craft beer? Craft beer is like small. What is craft beer? For all of those that listen to the podcast and follow us, craft beer is kind of like small batch beer. It's constant reimagining of recipes. It's not like big brewery. Apologies for bluntness. Not at all. Not at all. And you mentioned beer made recently. Not necessarily true, but it is quite quick in its shelf life. You usually get sort of like 6 months on a lot of these beers, unless they're bigger beers like stouts and porters and those kinds of things. But your things like your macro brewed beers like Budweiser, big one like Carling here in the UK, and those kinds of things, that has the same recipe every single time. Craft beer and stuff like this. So I'm drinking Left Handed Giant, collaboration with Pressure Drop Brewery, both craft breweries. That beer will probably never ever be brewed again. There is a run of 10,000 cans, and that is it. Once it's been purchased, it is gone basically. They might iterate on the recipe potentially at some point, changing out some of the ingredients maybe, or changing quantities of things to brew it at a future date. But that is essentially, I think, at least in a very non-definitive kind of non-definition kind of way, I suppose, because there's lots of stuff. So Aadil is drinking a sparkling water, basically, but not brewed, made by a craft beer brewery, but it's just water filled with hops. So is it in the craft beer space? It is,
Oh,
but it
it's
kind of,
definitely yeah. I
but
mean,
it's
so I
not.
think it's in the craft space, right? So I mean, the craft space is basically this idea of people trying to innovate and make either the best or the odd compilations of recipes of known beer, right? The idea is to develop the craft, and so because of that, um, you rarely have the same runs of beer unless it's like so a lot of breweries will have like their staple couple beers like this is our IPA, it sells really well, it's a thing we can send to bars and they know what they're getting, but then we also do all these like small run like the collaboration you're speaking of, interesting beers. And so craft beer enthusiasts tend to seek out those interesting beers and try them when they can because they might never happen again, and also like when you can kind of get a vibe of the brewer when you have enough of their you can feel them, the way they iterate, the way they improve, the way they shift. It's like you can have a very interesting relationship with a brewery because you can see kind of the space they're headed in. And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't like the way Day has been over the past couple of years, even though I've loved them for a decade. Maybe I won't grab one for a while, but it's also interesting, and it means it's not stagnant. And it like craft beer fans like the fact that it's not the same beer, even if it's the best beer you've ever had. Like a lot of that ends up being contextual. Maybe it was the right day, maybe it was on tap, whatever. But like the point is, you don't get attached to a specific recipe often, right?
Yep.
So you get attached to a brewery because what they do is really interesting, and when you have this like phenomenal beer, you're like, cool, what are they doing next? Versus the average person like has their favorite beer and they go to the pub or they go to the store and they buy their 6-pack and they get the beer they want, and it's always the same. And like your Heinekens, your Carlings, they put a lot of effort into, obviously because water and other ingredients actually do have flux, and like the hop crop might be different, but what they're trying to do is, instead of allowing the difference in season and soil and water content and whatever to influence the recipe, they do the opposite. They try and figure out, okay, given our ingredients this time around, how do we make sure that it gets as close to what everyone's expecting as possible, right? And so it's the same thing, right? I mean, ingredients are not monotextual, right? Like they contextually they differ over time, but it's whether you want to cut that difference or like embrace it and see what else you can do.
Absolutely. And as you say, Ghost Floof, I didn't realize that Pepsi and Coke had the same recipe, but it's just different equipment. Equipment makes a big difference as well. And you'll find that breweries that do collaborations together will go to one and brew a beer, and they might go to the other place, brew exactly the same beer, and it will be different as well. So yes, yeah, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. I see hello from South Africa / Japan. You're a very long person if you're in both of those locations at the same time. But yes, we were launching in a little bit to video games. Kind of not necessarily anything we've actually played in the past week, but more what you were looking forward to, Aadil, coming up. Did you, because you weren't on the episode a few weeks ago when Lucy and I talked about Gamescom, did you see much of it? Is there anything from Gamescom, just as a quick catch-up, that you've kind of noticed, or anything new coming out that you're like, that is a kind of an instant pickup?
No, I think the past couple of years I've kind of stopped paying attention to the gaming news cycle, despite co-hosting a video game podcast, just because I can't keep up, and like the hype cycle often gets me into pre-ordering or buying a game when I don't have the time. Like I bought Elden Ring day 1, but if I bought it day 5, it wouldn't have meant much, and I would have bought it day 5 given all the great reviews, right? And I just, like, my life has been too variant on how much time I can put into games, and so it's kind of nice to just like, oh, now that I have time for a game, let me see what people like now that's out. Oh, that game, that sounds super cool. I didn't know it existed. Outside of things like for the website for review purposes, and obviously things like, oh man, my brain almost blanked. Starfield, like it's on Game Pass. I'll probably I'm hoping once this job interview crap is over, I might renew my Game Pass because I let it lapse while I was traveling and everything, and maybe give Starfield a crack, because that seems like I've missed. I've noticed after watching the latest seasons of Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks, like, oh man, I would love to play a spacey game. I haven't played one in ages. Oh look, one of the most hyped ones is coming out. It's on Game Pass. Great. Why do I need to watch Gamescom? I can just open up Game Pass and be like, there's a game I want to play.
Yeah,
it's part of the 3 things.
Absolutely.
So, sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, and it's kind of also, as GoFlu says, it's no longer about what people like, it's about what your PC can handle. I think it's also about what's available on lots of the streaming and subscription services that people have as well. I have put about an hour this week into Sea of Stars, which is a new pixel art. I think it's more of a JRPG. It's kind of in the vein more of like I was going to say Breath of the Wild, but it ain't Breath of the Wild. Was it Breath of Fire? More so than say like Final Fantasy. So
cool.
it's good so far. What I find interesting is that it's a prequel to The Messenger, a game from several years ago, which is a 2D side-scrolling. Is it a Metroidvania or is it just an action game? I don't remember. But that game changed its art style across from kind of 8-bit to 16-bit as you play. And whilst Sea of Stars hasn't presented anything like that yet, I'm only an hour in. And I think so far I'm like, cool, this is good, but I don't think I would have played it had it not have been a PlayStation Plus Extra game,
Right.
which is the tier that I have availability to pick games up
Wait,
from.
is that the middle one?
It is the middle one, yes.
Yeah.
The one that's going up in price, and this is maybe something I want to talk about a bit later. PlayStation Plus's price increases. I think it's going up from £80 a year to like 100 and to 100 to a flat £100, essentially. About 25% rise. We'll talk about that maybe in a little bit. But yeah, I can't talk much to Sea of Stars at the moment, rather than being able to kind of really get into, I'm both of us are big kind of early JRPG fans, enough that there's lots of comparisons that could be made and things as I kind of play through. But what I've got so far is about an hour of a very accessible game. Doesn't hold your hand too much, but is quite slow to get going, I would say. So more to report on potentially next week on Sea of Stars. Apart from that, and I think this is probably going to be a shorter episode on the things that we played, and maybe more in leaning into a topic for the second half of the episode.
Yeah.
I have spent a little bit more time in the big space game, No Man's Sky.
The Nomansky.
Yeah, the Nomansky.
Yeah,
And
I'm wondering if when I start the other game, I'll just be like,
it sounds very much from what people have said, the things that I have listened to, that it is very similar to No Man's Sky, but it's basically Bethesda's take on it, right? It has the trappings of a Fallout game. It's got kind of the push of the story a little bit, and maybe a little bit more kind of discoverability and more structured kinds of discoverability for things like side missions and that sort of stuff. Whereas No Man's Sky is a little bit more floaty. Stuff kind of just appears as you're kind of playing through it. So it's something that I keep going, oh, I've got 10 minutes. And it goes, there's an update for No Man's Sky. And I go, oh, fine, install the update. I'll just play Sea of Stars for 10 minutes. One of the reasons why I started Sea of Stars, because there was a big No Man's Sky update, actually. But it's holding me. It's holding me much more than it did when I originally played it. I'm not sure if I mentioned that last week. I vamped for 5 minutes whilst Lucy was off air in last week's episode about No Man's Sky. And I've basically been going around cataloguing stuff, looking at planets, and I'm like, cool, I've done that, I've experienced that for a little bit, let's jump back into like the main story and start to progress with that a little bit for No Man's Sky now. So yeah, it's holding me. It's holding me a lot more than it previously did. I don't know whether it would hold me more than Starfield, and I know that, and we talked about a while back, that City Skylines 2 is coming out on Game Pass. I think when it releases in October, and I'm like, cool, I'll just pick up Game Pass for like September to play a bit of Starfield, and October to play City Skylines 2. And I know what would happen, and it'd be the same as it happened with Crusader Kings 3. I will just want to play that. So City Skylines 2 comes out, and I'm like, oh, I've got to just pay for another month, because I just want to play City Skylines. And actually, I'll spend more on a subscription to Game Pass playing one game than I will if I probably just buy City Skylines 2. And I'm not invested enough in Starfield to actually take the plunge. And I know it's probably one of the biggest releases this year, if not the biggest. But I don't know. Just nothing is compelling me to be in that space.
I mean, yeah, I get that because I'm basically in the space of like I kind of want to play a space game. This is a big space game that's out. I'll try it out. It's worth me getting Game Pass again because there's a couple games I did like that I've in the queue that I didn't get around to that they're still on Game Pass. But it's not like I'm like, oh my god, I'm so hyped for this space game. It's like, oh, I'd like to play a space game. This one is a space game.
Yeah. I mean,
which is like, I don't know. It feels weird. I don't know if I'm just getting too old for hype. Because like, I think back to when Skyrim came out and like the hype was huge, and then like I picked it up and then like took ages to get around to playing it because I was busy, but like I had to have it or whatever, and it only got bigger. In that sense, because you know everything kept getting re-released and remastered and remastered, etc. And this one, it's just like, I don't know. It sounds like a game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like me being more jaded about hype, or just the hype isn't the same or there.
It's the time as well, right? You know, the amount of effort and time that we used to put into watching E3 when E3 happens. You know, go back 5 years, and we were doing videos pre every single conference to say this is what we're looking forward to. It would be crazy if this happened. What we want from it, and then doing like almost debriefs of them and being like, I'm so glad that they showed this, and having discussions around the podcast. We don't do that a huge amount anymore. You know, we don't sit and we have like a brief 10-minute conversation about what's happened at Gamescom because we've watched a little bit of stuff that's kind of come out. I don't know whether it's just we've moved on a little bit from that kind of cool games to now being like jobs, kids. Oh, games. Oh yeah. Yes. I rather than looking at stuff, I just spend my time actually playing one instead because I've got a 10-minute window to do something for myself. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. I think it's a good point, because we've run out of games to talk about that we've played, to maybe open another drink. So I'm going to open up another beer. It is, as I said at the top of the show, another Left-Handed Giant collaboration beer. This is with Gamma Brewing, which you can just see. I need to get a ring light instead of my... I don't, because I use this for drawing, and that's exactly what I need. This is called Peaceful Noise. It's a hazy IPA at 6.5%. Little bits of flavour text. Brewed in collaboration with our good friends Gamma Brewing Co. We've incorporated Zappa, Vic's Secret, Simcoe, and Citra into an orangey tropical fruit bomb. Oh, I love a fruit bomb. That's it. It's very, very limited flavour text. So I will crack this. Aadil, I notice you've got a little bit of the sparkling
but it's a water. I can
water left.
swap over.
What are you going to be drinking next?
Oh, so I've done a thing, which is unfortunately at the Holy Grail they had a beer on tap that my friend Joel was really hyped for me to get. But by the time we got there a couple days later, it had been taken off the tap because it was too viscous.
Oh wow!
For the lines. It is Vault City's 5 years of sour beer release number 4. It is 999 gram per liter apricot and raspberry birthday cake.
Ooh.
It is 6.4%. So not that big.
Small for Vault City.
It is just, 999 grams per liter. It is like thick, is for what I understand. So it's water, malted barley, oats, apricot, raspberry, white chocolate, vanilla, hops, yeast. And lactose. Stupid vegan.
Did you look at that before you brought the beer?
To celebrate 5... Sorry?
Did you look at the ingredients before you brought the beer?
No, I thought, well, it's a sour. It's not,
Yeah.
To celebrate 5 years of sour beer, we brewed something extra special. A style that put this brewery on the map. And 999 gram per liter apricot raspberry birthday cake showcases the essence of what we do at Vault City. A delicately sour mixed fermentation beer with a ridiculous fruiting rate of 999 grams per liter, the legal limit of what we can use while still calling it a beer. The intense smoothie sour is a fifth of its kind from Vault City. It's thick, juicy, and totally unforgettable. So I figured I would go on either end of the not beer spectrum. The like, this has beer ingredients but isn't brewed, and then this is on the verge of not being legally beer. So that's the theme of today.
Nice. Let's see this pot. Whoa! Look at that. That's not even.
Oh man,
that's like the thickest of juices, isn't it? It's a lovely color.
For those of you on the audio podcast, it's worth looking for. We'll try and cut a clip or something and put it on Twitter. That is. Damn it.
It's all in your beard.
Yeah, it is. Oh my god.
Yes.
Give me a second. I'm gonna grab a towel.
I'll give you a second. Thank you, Ghost Floof, for the follow over on Twitch as well. If you, like lots of our listeners, want to listen to previous episodes, you can go onto the Out of Lives Network YouTube page to look at nearly 400 episodes of this absolutely absurd thing that we do.
Oh god, it's still going.
And it's all coming out of his glass as well. Or subscribe to us on your podcast service of choice. Whilst he is off, I will put my beer up to the camera.
I just vacuumed the goddamn carpet.
There we go. There's my beer. It's a bit hazy. It said it was a hazy IPA. It's got a nice nose. I had it as soon as the can cracked. A little bit of a fruit kind of hit. Didn't get so much of the orange on the nose, but maybe more sort of mango coming out of the nose. But a lot less head than the first beer, the Pils. Interestingly,
Well,
it's a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit more medium body than the Pils, which was very light. Flavour wise though, it's really nice. It is tropical. You get maybe more ripe mango, maybe just like on the turn kind of mango, but there is that orange in there behind it all as well. A little bit of sweetness from an orange in there, but that kind of on the turn mango is pushing that more modern kind of almost double IPA juice bomb kind of not juice bomb actually, and as they say, actually fruit bomb is probably a better way of now describing the kind of beers that we are getting, with a slightly more earthy bitterness and finish to it. For those of you listening, I will stop talking because Aadil has disappeared out of the room now to get more things to clean up the spill of the Vault City. As he said, potentially was taken off the lines because of how viscous the beer was. Interesting to see how thick it was when he poured it, and knowing and having worked in bars and line cleaning lots, how difficult slightly thicker things are to sort out. So yes, there's a little bit of a clean, but at least you got a first sip quite quickly.
Yeah, sorry about that.
How is it? How is the beer?
So let's just look at it. It's thick. The head. Trying to show how viscous it was, I kind of continued pouring before thinking how much it might build up. The head is like 3 inches thick and hasn't moved during the entire cleanup.
Solid, absolutely
yeah.
solid. Expect nothing less from
cake.
Vault City.
Yeah, it smells like stone fruit raspberry cake. My brief inhalation of some head to prevent more spillage seemed to have confirmed that. But let's take a attempt to drink through this. Yep, 3 fingers of head.
When you have a moment, remind me, was this there was a number associated with this. Was it batch
990
4?
gram,
Was it
9.
sorry, the smaller number? You said like the number 4 or something. Was it batch 4? Was it like birthday
Oh
beer
yeah, sorry.
4?
It's
Was it
it's release 4. So I think
release 4?
they have
Right.
multiple releases for their 5-year anniversary, and this is their release for apricot raspberry birthday cake, which has so much stuff in it, it's almost legally not beer.
Yep.
Which I wish you could see. Just look at the like sediment.
On the
Just
glass.
it looks like fruit juice pulp, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's something that you get, like, say, with more tomato juice, that it actually leaves a bunch of sediment around the glass,
Yeah.
kind of as you're drinking it.
Yeah. Good lord. I say with this jam, the taps, it is so thick. Oh. I was a little worried with that much fruit. And like, it's a cake. Right,
Yep.
so for those of you who don't know, Vault City, their sours are amazing because when they call it a thing, it really does taste like the thing. So one of the first ones we had was the like lemon blueberry cheesecake.
Cheesecake, yeah.
And that thing tasted like a lemon blueberry cheesecake. Right, they balance the acidity. They use the sourness and the yeast to bring out an acidic taste to off balance the sweetness that the fruit gives that isn't fully eaten off by the yeast, and you get the same taste as the fruit. Like they are just so good at finding that acid sweet balance that is the way the fruit would taste or the thing. Good lord. Sorry.
It starts repeating on you.
Mouth.
Yeah.
It's like I drank a real pulpy juice. This is kind of wild. And so I was a little worried because I don't want, like, the cake ones tend to be on the border for me. But this is so loaded with fruit that this is like it's like when someone makes like a light sponge cake, but like overindulges with the amount of fruit, so it's kind of just like a light wrapper around sort of slightly too sweet because of the way it's cooked fruit. So you like the cake part is in the back seat. And this is what it tastes like. Like someone made a very fruited sponge cake with raspberries and apricots, and you're just like, oh god, this is like intense fruit because it's cooked and it's a bit syrupy, but it's not like, oh, here's a super sweet cake and also fruit.
Yeah.
I'm not a baker. I don't know how to. All I can get is light sponge cake. So go to Tinned Up. I don't know, Cake Tinned Up. I don't know what our sister podcast would be with baking.
Baked Up, I suppose.
Baked Up's a different podcast.
Well, I mean, we can do both at the same time, but it's...
Yeah. So one, don't be intimidated by the 999 grams. It's really well balanced. It doesn't taste too sweet. It is intense, but not in the like assault on your senses. Just like, this is real fucking viscous, but it tastes like what I want these things to taste like. This is not normally like, I don't normally like super cakey, donutty, all those not gimmicks, but like those approaches to craft beer. Usually I'm like, I'll try it, but I'm not like seeking them out. This is really good. The fruit comes out first. The viscosity is a bit weird to me. I like that it's only 6.4% in this viscous. That's wild to me.
Okay.
Because that means you can have it safely and just be like, I can drink this like a juice if I only have one, right?
Yep.
It lingers like all hell. What I like is it lingers for multiple reasons, just a longish finish, but also literally because it's so viscous. Like if I move my tongue around my mouth, I can like catch parts of it that have just been clinging to my cheeks, if that makes sense. Like it's just like having a super pulpy or like just a really freshly squeezed juice on the street somewhere where someone's just like, no filter, just like, and you throw it back and you're like, oh, there's all this stuff. In a good way.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. It's really, really interesting. I'm kind of curious whether they needed it to be 999 gram per liter to get this taste profile, like without the like. I know obviously what they were aiming for was this sort of pulpy, concentrated, viscous, syrupy drinking cake thing, but I'm curious whether they could get the same taste in like a very lighter, more beery experience.
Mm.
Just out of curiosity, whether like this taste, like whether the thickness and like jammed full of fruit is needed to keep that like fruit from being overtaken from the cake, from
Hmm.
the sweetness, from the, to get the right level of acidity to give it more of a freshly juiced but still somehow tasting like an apricot cake experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Vault City are like magicians.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to know. Maybe we'll send Andy, if he's still there. To be fair, I haven't spoken to Andy for a little while, but we'll give them a shout and ask them. Essentially, we can just say, "Hey, did you need this much in there? What effect would having 80 in there have made, or even sort of like what would you normally put in? For you to put the number on the front of the tin to tell us how much that you've put in there. What would you normally put in, to see why you've felt that this needs to be conveyed to people? Is it less of a taste thing and more of a viscosity and a mouthfeel kind of thing? Yeah, we'll follow up maybe with Vault City. I'll send them a quick email when I've got 5 minutes, perhaps, just to
Yeah,
see,
sounds good.
and follow up on it in the coming weeks. Cool. So we're going to drink these. We'll move on to our topic, I suppose, for the week. And I wanted to chat the recent price increases for PlayStation Plus. Not only because I'm not cross, I'm not upset. I can understand there's a rising cost to everything at the moment, but more in the vein of this. Again, I suppose not necessarily direct comparison to what people get with Game Pass, but it brings it more in line, I think, with the costs that now Game Pass kind of have. And if perhaps the idea that this cost has gone up is maybe because Sony have bigger overheads and all that sort of stuff, rather than an improvement to the service or increased benefits and stuff which have yet to be conveyed. It is just pay us more money for more thing. And in the context of PlayStation being the platform holder, but the publisher pushing for that higher price tag for new games as well. Everything going from kind of I'll use dollars, from that $50 to that $70 mark, and over here in the UK, that kind of like £45, £50 up to that kind of like £60 mark.
Yeah.
For new games. An idea. Are PlayStation just fucking pushing their luck? Like, we've got, PlayStation 5 is quickly becoming as, and if it stays on the same track, as popular as like PlayStation 2. Are we, with a little bit of hubris, and we all said it when PlayStation 5 kind of released and stuff, a little bit of hubris, is this actually the PlayStation 3 all over again? Lower numbers and that sort of stuff, but doesn't seem to be. Are PlayStation getting that little bit cocky now, and sort of pushing everybody that little bit more to be able to charge some? I don't know what you've seen of this, Aadil, to sort of know what those kind of price increases were, but as I said, my extra tier was, I think it was £80 a year, which has now gone up to £99. I think
Quite a bit.
It is the bigger one. I think is the essential, where basically you can play online, and you get like the 3 or 4 games every month. That used to be like just what PlayStation Plus was, right, before they expanded it into these tier sections, which used to be, I think, £40 a year, and is now £50. No, sorry, that's wrong. It's now £60 a year. So like a 30%. Maybe it wasn't quite 40. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. But it's kind of and I suppose not a direct comparison to Game Pass, because you can't buy Game Pass as a yearly subscription. You have to pay it in a monthly kind of thing. So at least with PS Plus still, you're getting a bit of a discount if you buy it as a 12-month bulk. £99 a year is like, what, £8, £8.30-ish a month. And it's actually £10.99 when you pay for it as an individual kind of month. But
Right.
if we take premium, the highest tier, so everything that you can get under the PlayStation Plus banner, 120 quid a month. What's that? 120 pound a month? It's almost £10. £9.99, 9 recurring per month,
Right.
essentially. Game Pass at its highest tier in Ultimate. And again, this might not be a direct comparison, but that's £12.99 a month. I hadn't realised Game Pass was quite that expensive.
$12.99?
£12.99, yeah.
That's Ultimate or regular?
That's Ultimate. That's Ultimate.
That's with the streaming, right?
Yes. Is that with streaming?
Game
I don't know whether that changes, actually. Whether streaming is just available in all.
Oh no, so I know this because when I got my Steam Deck,
Yeah.
I looked up how to make streaming work on Game Pass. Game Pass streaming, and you need Ultimate in order to stream that extra library
Right, okay.
of games to the Steam Deck, which apparently, from what I've read, works real well.
Sure.
Because of course, all it needs to do is process the stream with low latency. So if your internet's, all that crap we've talked about.
Yep.
So Game Pass, why can't you just? Sorry, I'm just annoyed that the Xbox isn't the actual Xbox website isn't the one that comes up first. It's like, is this out of date?
Yeah.
How does Microsoft have to have bad SEO?
What annoys me is with both Game Pass and with PlayStation Plus, it gives you discover your favorite games, play high quality games. Here are all of the things. Play these games. Do the things. Here is what you get. Everything. There's games for everybody. There's some stuff. Here's some things. Play from the cloud. Play some experiences. Now we'll tell you the price. It's like, no, put the fucking price at the top. Same with PlayStation Plus. Here's all of the things. Here's PlayStation Stars. Here's what you get with Extra. Here's what you get with Premium. At least they give you the comparison instantly between the tiers on PlayStation. You do still have to scroll to the bottom of the page to actually see what the cost of all of these things are.
So, PC only Game Pass is $7.99.
Yep.
Which includes discounts, new games, hundreds of high quality games, Xbox Studios same day release, Riot Games benefits, because that's a thing that people care about.
Yep. EA Play as well.
Yeah. Yes, EA Play. Ultimate is the exact same set of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait.
It's free perks, including in-game content and partner offers.
Right. So there's the free perks, but if you look, it's play hundreds of high-quality games on PC, console, PC, and cloud.
Yeah.
And the cloud is you can do $8.99 for just your Xbox, $7.99 for just your PC. If you want both, you're going Ultimate, and if you want cloud, you're going Ultimate. And so there's a huge chunk of the Xbox library which is streaming. You stream the game, you don't download and install it.
Yep.
What that means though is a lot of those are Xbox games that might not have been released on PC, for example, but you can stream it on PC, which is really cool. And like if you have a Steam Deck, it's a nice bargain.
Yep.
But the $12.99 is the ultimate. So if you aren't doing cloud crap, you can do actually the cheapest Games Pass is $7.99 on PC only. Which is still a lot.
Yeah.
But
it works
example,
out.
If you do the point catching things, it's a third of the price. Something like that. Bless you. Like it's a lot easier to get enough PC or Microsoft reward points to get the PC pass than it is the ultimate.
Yes, absolutely. And so there's a bit of a difference as well in the kind of the rewards program, in that to get rewards for games that you play and there's different quests every month and stuff through the rewards program or on Xbox Game Pass. You have to be an Ultimate subscriber to get that, so you have more opportunities to earn points. But I don't think it stacks up quite as quickly. Like the points that you can earn under Ultimate don't get you to $12.99 in the same percentage that just doing the PC stuff would get you to $7.99 on.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's the cloud element which kind of elevates this, and PlayStation do the same, right? So the PlayStation Plus Premium tier is the only one that you can cloud stream on, but there's a key difference. That is cloud streaming on PlayStation consoles only. That is not cloud streaming on PC. It is not cool. I can have a PC. I don't own an Xbox, and I had Game Pass for months, and I was playing everything on PC. I was streaming games on PC. I was playing the library that they had, new games that came out, stuff like the amount of Crusader Kings 3 I played through Game Pass. And that was when I was just only paying for the $7.99, which might not have been $7.99 at the time, only paying for that kind of PC only monthly subscription, and still just doing the Microsoft Rewards points, and kind of probably paying for 1 month out of every 3, I think, is roughly what it worked out as, the amount of points that I could kind of save. When I jumped up to the Ultimate tier, I was almost paying every other month for Ultimate. It probably moved more to I was paying for 2 months out of every 5 or something like that.
Right.
That it kind of stacked out as. But being able to play everything on PC was a big win. Like, you just cannot do that with PlayStation, essentially. And whilst the 12-month subscription for Premium, which has the cloud streaming, is £120, so it's £10 a month, and it's cheaper than Game Pass, I can't pay anything. I can't play anything on PC. It just cannot be done. So I would. My hope is that PlayStation around the bend are about to say, you can start here. Here is our PlayStation app. And again, it's only the remote play app, right, on PC. So you can only remote play from your console. It's not a game on PC. You're not logging in to, in some way, a Steam download, because obviously PlayStation started putting a lot of their games on Steam. It's also not day and date first party releases, and obviously we're seeing that now with Starfield. The amount of people I would imagine playing Starfield through Game Pass will be massive, and people going and paying your $8.99 to play Starfield on PC just for that singular month. And there will be more games, I think, that draw people to Game Pass than there currently are under the PlayStation tier. And there was a lot of vitriol and a lot of people kind of saying, I'm cancelling my PlayStation subscription because they've put the price up kind of this much. As someone who subscribes to PlayStation Plus and previously subscribed to kind of Game Pass, I still think it's within the budget of things I have for a gaming service. I don't think it's now out of the realm of possibility. That extra £20 on a yearly kind of subscription for £100 for me not to cover. But for you, Aadil, who has had these services before but doesn't kind of currently, does this price increase kind of touch the sides for you? Is it something that you would even, if you were like, cool, I've now got a PlayStation for some reason, I'm going to go for
PlayStation 4. I haven't turned the fucking thing on in over a year.
Sure, yeah.
Right, I think that's the big thing is I saw the last game I played was Final Fantasy VII Remastered. Didn't finish it. Realized I wanted to restart it. Bought it at close to retail on PC because I was like, I'll just sell this for 20 quid or 10 quid or whatever it was on eBay and not have I have my PS4 because I haven't had time to sell it. I'm not gonna get a lot of money, and I have Bloodborne, and I've been meaning to. One thing that Elden Ring made me realize is I kind of do want to play the other Dark Souls games. I have 1 through 3, either original or remastered, on Steam. Uh, Bloodborne is only available on PS4.
Yes.
I think I'll get maybe what, 30 quid for a PS4 used, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, until I make peace with the fact that I'll never play Bloodborne, I might as well leave it on my shelf, right? But like, it's now I don't have I haven't had PS Plus for a couple years now. That whole library of games, because it's locked away unless you pay, it's just disappeared. I own games on PlayStation. Don't get me wrong, but like, there are none that I like really want to play that I couldn't, to be honest, pay 3 quid probably and get it on PC.
Mm, mm.
That's kind of where I'm at. Is like, yes, I know I'm like giving up a library, and this is one of the things I don't like about these ecosystems. Is like I own, a, tens of games. Maybe not 100, possibly 100 games on PlayStation, Sony stuff, right? But none of them reacquire not or like I don't want to rebuy a game, but I'd rather do that than have another ecosystem to worry about, and like them raising the prices and having, like, to be honest, I think I might have like thought about a PS5 or something, because like my PC's not that great, and like some of these games that are coming out, I wouldn't mind something with more oomph.
Mm.
But like when PlayStation was like, hey, what if 3 tiers? It's like, no. And now the 3 tiers are more expensive. It's like, there is something about the simplicity. Like if Netflix had, like when they were thinking about doing like, oh, what if we charged you less because you had to watch ads? And it's like,
Yep.
no. Also, I don't want to spend twice as much to have the service without ads. That's bullshit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't like this stratifying to see how much you can extract from people approach.
Mm.
And like I know I said I'm coming on to a notion of like playing video games more often or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I got such a backlog. I'd also not caring about the zeitgeist. I mean, I am to an extent. Like I wouldn't mind playing something people say are great, and I do like pretty game. But also a lot of pretty game is like new lo-fi art, not like ray tracing up the wazoo type games, right? Like
Yeah.
there are some really pretty games that don't need huge hardware. This PC will be fine for another couple years.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
like,
And unless you're
if
looking,
anything, this makes me less likely to reattach myself to the play. Like, I think for people like me, this is actually gonna do the opposite. It's not because I'm not fully locked into the ecosystem. It's just disincentivizing myself from going back.
sure. And what would then bring you back, if anything?
Hardware that, like, let's be honest, these are just PCs at some point, right?
Mm.
So hardware that is affordable, that to the end, like that will last long enough that it makes sense to not upgrade my PC instead,
Mm.
which has happened before, right? That's why I bought a PlayStation 4, right? But like I use PCs. I used to work in IT. I have no problem with the fiddling. I also think that the
Yes.
like PC gaming is so much more fiddly thing is just not really the case. Like, oh yeah, you're right. I have to tell it. Like, you don't even have to tell it. The like guesstimation of, oh, you're a medium. If you want, you could just play it on the whatever the algorithm of the game decides to do. But if you want to push its performance because you don't mind lower frame rate and prettier pictures, you can do that. Great flexibility, but you don't have to. And like these things almost always have multiple modes, so if it is kind of lagging, just dump it down. I don't care enough about the prettiest picture to for that to matter. And so with those things, it's like I was for the longest time not a console gamer, and it was like playing with friends, right? Like I played a bunch of PS4 when we both had time to play like Battlefield 1 together.
Yes. Yes.
That was not yesterday, right? And it's like, well, unless there's a reason to be on that platform.
7 years ago. That was 7 years ago.
That's wild.
I know. That's fucking nuts.
Melting into dust, which doesn't make sense, but tells you how things are.
Yes, absolutely. So
basically, like, it's the ecosystem needs to give me a reason, and it's not going to be some game. I don't think, because we're just not at that place where the exclusives are exclusive for that long. I don't need to have it right away. The Spider-Man games, as was said in the chat, like might have high rec specs, but they come out on different systems, and I can choose to upgrade my graphics card, and then have access to slightly older exclusive catalog on all the systems, right? Like,
Sure.
and also with Game Pass, it's like, I don't know. I think my dalliance with consoles, unless, like I said, we somehow manage to get to a place where both of us have enough time to play some exclusive game for hours at a time together, I'm not gonna do it. And like I said, so like the only reason I have the PS4 is because I have this exclusive game that I have already. Like I wouldn't go out of my way to buy PS4 and a copy of Bloodborne just to maybe one day play it. I have one. I currently have the shelf space for it. My landlord's jacked my rent up by like 70 quid, so I might need to move soon. And that might not be the case.
Okay.
But until then, like, I don't know. The reason why Xbox Game Pass works for me is because it's on the thing I already have.
Yep.
And that thing
Absolutely.
is flexible and it gets both libraries eventually. That's the thing, right? By making it PC tier, and the fact that things eventually come to PC means I don't have to choose. There's no tribe, even though it's the Xbox Game Pass, right?
Completely.
As long as I can wait for the one to expire and and I get day and date of the other. Like that's the thing that there's no tier of PlayStation that gives me Starfield, right? Or whatever the Xbox exclusives are. I can't remember.
So not day and date. You can currently. I was just looking through the games that are available on even on Extra, so on that middle tier. You can get Horizon Forbidden West, which was a game from last year. You can get Returnal, which is a game from 2 years ago. And there's a bunch of other games like the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Ghostwire Tokyo, which was an exclusive, Back 4 Blood, which came out last year, Scarlet Nexus, which is several years ago. All games which are available to play through, but nothing kind of like day and date. Some of those, like Back 4 Blood and Scarlet Nexus, available on other consoles. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is. So the actual PlayStation exclusives, which are available through this kind of service, is very, very limited. And Horizon Forbidden West, which came out on the service several months ago, and maybe roughly a year after it had kind of released as a retail product, is the most likely the quickest turnaround on one of these kinds of games. And I don't know whether we'll see a bit more of that coming. You know, suddenly it's like 6 months and we can play. But there are now 5 or 6 games available on PC through Steam. PlayStation first party made games. And if there was a tier, if there was PlayStation Plus and it was either the extra tier, which would probably be the best place to put it, where you could go on the remote app, whatever app you want to get PlayStation stuff, even if it gave you access to play those games, to play the PC ports, not even having to stream the games, but even better, paying for that upper one and being able to stream everything, the whole catalogue, which I suppose you can do on PC. You can have the remote play app, but you still have to have the console to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's the disconnect between, and I think this is
the
where Xbox
requires a piece of hardware in the one, and it doesn't in the other.
Absolutely, right? This is where Xbox have made that disconnect between the two work very, very well, and I think PlayStation aren't quite there yet.
Well, they don't want to be, right?
No, absolutely right. They don't want to be. Microsoft are this like middle ground where they're like, well, we own like 50% of the PC market anyway. Everyone's paid for Windows. You know, we're getting subscriptions through Word and 360 and Teams and all of these other products that we produce for the PC market. How easy would it be for us to put all of our console games on PC? Very, very fucking easy. Let's just do it, no brainer. Even if it's a bit of a loss leader to start with, as you know, as console releases kind of are. You can see kind of Xbox still putting out a box, but being much more the platform that floats between these different hardware. Whereas PlayStation, I think, are trying to, as Nintendo do, always tie themselves to a box under the TV, basically.
We are a console company.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that is their message. We sell hardware that enables you to play our magic games.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Good. It's a minefield, right? If you're a new gamer and you kind of sat there thinking, well, what shall I do? Just get a PC, mate.
Yeah.
Just get a PC. You've got access to all
years.
of the games. You can go on Epic Game Store, still give free games every week.
And Good Old Games sometimes still has.
Good Old Games does,
games
yes.
well.
You get sign up to Good Old Games because I get codes almost every day. Like, do you want this game for like 30%? Here's a code if you want this game for 30%. I'm like, I don't, but thanks. Steam has sales all the fucking time. Wishlist as many games as you want and be notified exactly when game X goes on sale, and you can kind of pick it up, you know, several months after its kind of release. But you have the availability, as you do on all of the consoles as well, to buy a game as it releases for you know, standard kind of retail price. I suppose the one thing that and maybe to counter Starfield as one of the biggest releases of the year, kind of Baldur's Gate 3,
right,
as a game, I guess you just have to pay for, right? If you want to play Baldur's Gate 3, you have to pay for it, as we've had to do with games since games existed. Essentially, you want a new game, you pay for a new game, and subscription services can only go so far, right? I can't imagine you're getting a huge amount of third-party games day and date. With PlayStation Plus, at least, it's been smaller games, smaller indie games that you get, like Sea of Stars, Chia, a few other, Stray as well, smaller indie games that you get day and date with their release. That just happen to be part of one of the tiers that you get, and that happens with Game Pass as well, quite a lot. Back 4 Blood, a game which PlayStation are advertising as part of the PlayStation Plus Extra service. Back 4 Blood came out day and date on Game Pass, so but both of them are trying. They're paying X amount for certain things to come out, and I think it's interesting. The statements that we made at the top of the show or towards the beginning of the show on like Gamescom, not looking at these things, being able to just open up Game Pass and be like, oh cool, this is available, I'll play that. That actually they and these subscription services almost want people to be a bit more dialed in to what is being released, because they want you to know that Stray is available day and date on PlayStation Plus Extra, and actually rather than paying the £15-20 to play it and own it, or at least own a digital version of the game, you could pay £6, and here it is available for you to play for the month that you have paid £6 for on PlayStation. Or the same with Xbox, the £8 that you pay on PC to be able to play that game for the month that you have kind of purchased it for. They want you to be that little bit more dialed in, I think, or it's more beneficial potentially to be a little bit more dialed in, to know what is coming to services, to know where best to spend your money. And I would imagine most of our listeners splitting their time between video games and beer and having two reasonably expensive hobbies to try and keep up with, want to be that little bit more dialed in, I guess, with things. So it's an interesting space to be at the moment. With the cost of things going up so much, it's more likely that most people are only paying for, either the subscription that they have associated with the box that they have under their TV, rather than having availability for everything, or making those decisions based on what they have available. I have a PC. I will go with Game Pass because I can get the stuff. I have a PlayStation.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll pay for PlayStation Plus because I can get the stuff, rather than just having to wade through the minefield.
I mean, this is sort of where I wish that, like, I was hoping the streaming meant that we could stop having ecosystem-based crap, right? But it's just not the case. Now suddenly it's like the streaming part is like technologically agnostic, right? But
Yeah.
PlayStation's like, no, but because nothing's doing the processing in your house. It's processing a stream.
Yep.
Any computer could do that, right? So it's like, yes, optimize that for the PlayStation. Maybe there's a mild, like, I'm not going to pretend like it's perfect, but like it's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, we know it's not a thing because PlayStation Now, RIPD, was a thing that was originally streaming to the PC, and it was this back catalog that's locked behind top tier PlayStation, whatever.
Yep.
And like, that's how they tested it out, because it's a lot easier to test out on just generic PC environment. And then they're like, okay, now we'll figure out how to make it work for our PS4 and our PS5. And it's like, you're missing the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should just be subscribe to our catalog, $5.
Yeah.
I would probably have both. That's the dumb thing.
Mm.
I'm not gonna spend $16 and have to have a dedicated hardware to subscribe to a catalog on the pretense that I might do it.
Yeah, completely. And if you now want to buy into the PlayStation ecosystem and you want to have the full experience, you are paying for a £400 console. You are paying for a £400 VR headset. You are paying £120 every year for a catalogue, not including 4 big releases a year at £70 a year for those first-party exclusive games if you want to play them on the day that they release. So again, another £280 kind of up front through the year. So like it builds and it builds and builds. And as Ghostfloof says, you know, I imagine jokingly earlier in the chat saying about a 10K PC. I mean, you can have that and you never have to actually worry about it again, right? You just buy a 10K PC and you're like, I'm good for like 10 years now. I don't need to worry about stuff. Stuff isn't going to jump that quickly through stuff. You know, you might buy a new monitor potentially to be able to see 8K or whatever it is that you kind of want. But you know, what's a high-end PC these days? Realistically, $5,000, maybe even a little bit lower than that, $4,000, something like that you could be able to kind of pick up. Yeah. So it's you start to get into PlayStation, and actually you're 5 years into PlayStation, and you've spent like £2,000, and you still have a very limited catalogue of games to be able to play. You spent the same on a PC, and the world is your oyster. You can play whatever you fucking want because everything comes to PC.
It might not look as pretty, but you didn't have to upgrade. I think that's
Exactly.
like a reasonable place. And when you do upgrade, suddenly you can go back to those games and make them prettier. Actually prettier, especially with mods and stuff. You're like, once you get that new shiny bit of kit, you're like, oh, this old thing better in a way that like you don't have option on.
Yeah, very much. And Ghostfloof, you mentioned the Switch. I think the Switch lives in a very separate space. Not maybe so much now with the Steam Deck, but it did at least. And even with PlayStation's now want for the Portal, I think they're calling it, which is the handheld, but is tied again and is only remote play with a console. It is not a Vita 2. It is not a separate unit. You have to have a PlayStation 5 to be able to use it. They're tying you into buying the box to then have that second screen experience. Again, £200, £300 for that. All of the headsets, all of the premium headsets and stuff like that. This cost just racks up and up and up and up and up as you go. So, bit of a downer to finish the episode out on, and the ridiculous cost of things when everything else is going up in cost as well, and everyone having that little bit less disposable income to be able to lean into these sort of entertainment products.
I mean, what I can say, is rather than just talking about the downer, I will say that tomorrow I'm off to the Leeds Craft Beer Festival
Oh, amazing.
with
Nice.
some friends here from Durham. So this was my topic, which is I'm going to a beer festival. I can't say anything else until next week because I haven't been. But it's sort of a mark of one, finding a good community of people who also love craft beer here has been great. But
Yes.
also this last year, since I've moved to the northeast of England, I've been really busy and haven't done as much exploration, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what the north and just this area of the country generally has to offer craft beer wise, and like yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing this side of craft beer instead of just craft beer as tins in the one or two places in Durham, which is a small town, which sells them. And like one of the places that used to be really good for really interesting and like non-overlapping with the places I go in town was the bottle shop that was in Newcastle train station.
Okay.
It has since closed because the guy who ran it was his like retirement kind of fun thing, and he's like, the lease came up. I'm old. I'm retiring. So it didn't shut down because Pandini. It didn't shut down because it wasn't doing well. It shut down because the guy was like, I don't really want to renew the lease because I don't really want to do it for X more years. It's time
Fair.
for me to stop.
Yes. Yes.
Which, all the power to him, but also, oh, that sucks because he had such a unique grab bag of like, he just got beers that the other places I know of didn't.
Yep.
Say I love you. But yeah, so I'm
Nice,
looking forward
nice.
to.
Give if you have the opportunity, give. I think Stephen, previous guest on the podcast, Points of Brew, is off to Leeds Crappy Fest
really?
as well. I'm pretty sure I
yeah.
saw him mention that he might be. Leeds Crappy Festival, I think, is one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, so the way it works, it's
so
like a
many.
15 quid admission, but then you buy the beers.
You buy the beers, yes. Unlike like the Bristol Crappy Festival, which we went to, which was a £40-odd all-in ticket. You have Hop City, you've got London, you've got loads and loads of crappy festivals, all operating on a slightly different model as well. Maybe that's a topic for a different day after you've experienced Leeds, to see how that experience has kind of shaken out over the next couple of days for you. But for this week, we will finish here. Do you have final thoughts on either of the drinks that you've had this evening, Aadil?
I liked them both for very different reasons. I would say track down the 999 gram per liter thing for a very interesting, viscous, juicy. Like, if you were curious, I think I can't remember the words of the flavor text, but if you were curious what like the essence of Vault City is, this is very much it, which is like
Sure.
a beer that doesn't taste like beer, tastes like the thing, is very interesting, refreshing, not over the top in a way that you might think given reading the tin. Really good. Would I have three in a row? No.
Yeah.
And then similarly, this Abbeydale's experiment with these hop waters, fucking fine one. It's not only unique, it's just very refreshing, and I think like I said, like we've had ups and downs with alcohol-free beers over the years, and like this just represents a very interesting alternative, which is it's not beer, but it is flavored water. I think the fact that they have the lemon juice in there gives it like that zesty crispness. I'd be curious if they pick other juices with different hops, or whether that just like that level of acidity just makes sense with just that refreshing taste you get. I mean, there's a reason why lemon water is a thing, right? There's a reason why I say like when I make a soda stream at home, I put lemon juice or lime juice or both. But it has that. It's so unique, tasting that hoppiness without any sense of beer, right? It's very good and refreshing. I would have this a lot. I'd have this like as a standard. I'm not in the mood for a beer, or I don't want to have that many. I might start the night with one or two, and then be like, maybe I'll have a beer at the end of the night. Like be able to pace myself without just having water
Yes.
or a soft drink. I like that it's not a soft drink in the traditional sense of like having sugar and crap, and it's not because they've like Coke Zero'd it. It's because the thing doesn't have sugar because it just those aren't the ingredients, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Good. I enjoyed both my beers. I think a little more the pills, even though maybe I wasn't quite getting the exact flavour because I'm a little bit bunged up and stuff. Not quite getting the nose of things. Both very nice beers. And beers produced as part of kind of a collaboration for Les Giant's birthday. There were a bunch of them. I think there were about 6 or 7 in the bottle shop. So it'd be good to go back and see what the other beer styles are from the other collaborations, because Pressure Drop, amazing at producing beers around that lager kind of header, the different styles that are in kind of lager, and some of the best pills I've had have come from Pressure Drop. Gamma I'm not as au fait with. Is IPA their thing? I don't know. It's definitely Les Giant's thing, and it was a good beer. Didn't quite deliver as well as the pills, I would say. A nice beer, but not quite as hitting and not quite as flavourful as the pills. So 2 nice beers from quality breweries. That definitely has me thinking, I need to go back to the shop that had these beers in, rather than just picking the 3 cans of Arbor or Wiper and True that I have had several times now. The ease of being able to go around the corner and picking up good beer and having the same good beer, or the same breweries at least, the same brewed beer, necessarily the same breweries, kind of whenever I fancy beer, actually just venturing out that little bit more. And well, was it last week or the week before where I had the Cloudwater version 14, the Dipper, the version 14, because they decided to bring back the double IPA series, which was phenomenal. Really, really good beer. Just shows, go out, have a look for the beers that you want. Travel that little bit to find stuff. Have experiences like Aadil is about to have, going to different beer festivals and experiencing what that has to offer, irrelevant of their kind of monetary models and those kinds of things. Do whatever within your own means, I suppose, to be able to do that kind of thing. So maybe a more positive note to finish the episode out on than the gaming subscription services discussion. If you want to get hold of us and let us know what you think about any of the things that we've talked about tonight, we are at TankTapCast on all of the socials. You can also go to outoflives.net to look at our faces and the beers that we have been drinking this evening, as well as the Out of Lives Network YouTube page as well. Rate and review us in your podcast service of choice, because it's always helpful to have those updates, especially for a podcast which is now about 7 years old and doesn't have the youth of all of those like 50 to 100 rabid fans behind it for a popular person launching a new project. We very much appreciate any time you can give to giving us feedback. If you want to shout us directly, I'm at Nova_47, and Aadil is
at the Omniarch.
And I think that's all of the places. They're the beers that we drank. They're the games that we haven't played but we've been discussing. Aadil, as I did with Lucy last week, have you got anything you want to finish the episode out on?
What I can say is my week, my last guest hosting, my second last guest hosting week at Glass Onion Minute came out 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
I think. If you you can tell when my week starts by just looking at the run times, because it goes 24, 32, 58, 54, hour and 18. I managed to talk at length with Ollie Brady, a good friend of mine on the internet, about 1 minute of the film Glass Onion, but yet we spend almost an hour each episode, and on the final episode where we get to talk spoilers, we go an hour and 20.
Brilliant.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, check out Glass Onion Minute on your podcast app of choice.
Nice. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it yet, but I almost feel, especially like a bit of a revival for our other podcast that we dabbled in, talking about
Loki
TV
season
shows. No, not Loki season 2. I've just watched the One Piece Netflix
Oh,
series.
interesting. I've only watched 10 minutes of it.
Okay,
And I watched hundreds of episodes of that anime before not having the time.
Okay, interesting, because I watched 10 minutes of the anime and then never watched it again. So it'd be interesting to get our thoughts on.
Yeah, I've actually also been thinking about how Thingy Thing might need a revival. Thingy Thing being
Geek Out
Weekly.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, to be honest, it's this Glass Onion Minute podcast. I'm like, oh man, I just like talking about movies and shit. And I can talk. If I can talk for an hour and 18 minutes about 1 minute of film, I can probably manage to talk about a season or an episode of a thing for 25 or whatever we were doing, right? Like,
yes.
So I'm hoping to, we should talk off air about what that means, and I think maybe, assuming I have any stability in my employment, etc. Also forgot I never finished topping this up. Because
do it now. Go away off air and finish the rest of that juicy thing.
But we should talk, because I think the key there is maybe guests and maybe bi-weekly instead of weekly.
Absolutely.
But Geek Out bi-weekly is a almost more entertaining sequel season.
Sounds like a very different show.
Yeah,
very much. Cool. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We've been Tanked Up. We'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
www.outoflives.net